We get to bid farewell to the Warden after the events of Rex Infernus and Black Ops 7. We may not have known him long, not as long as the long game he played, but he was a great addition as a central villainous force. Through the events of Rex Infernus, we were able to topple him and advance to whatever the next chapter of zombies may be, but that's a long ways away. Why don't we focus today on the question of, was Rex Infernus a satisfying conclusion to Black Ops 7 and this modern zombie storyline that we have been experiencing since Cold War? The answer is not going to rely entirely on the story. I want to discuss the map itself and all within it to determine if Rex Infernus is that satisfying conclusion. So let's begin. From the intro cutscene, we get to see that the Warden has discovered our little safe house and drags us down to his realm as he wishes to destroy us on his path to the grand reshaping that he wants to do to the universe. This sets the stage for us to spawn in the house and hold out until at least round 3 when we are able to teleport out of there and into the main map. I do really like this way of changing up the start of the match. You can't just explore everything right away, but it also doesn't hold you here for an absurd amount of time. Honestly, a magnificent way to start the map, especially because you are overlooking the map you're going to play in, so before the door opens you get little previews through the windows. Once the doors open, you can take in the full sight of the map and then teleport in while leaving the house behind for the time being. Here we are, fully in Rex Infernus, which has the central hub and 4 branches, 1 for each Shadowsmith, all placed in a half circle. What we are going to find through this whole video is that many elements of this map have a mixture of great, good, and bad things. That starts here with simply the layout and setting. I love the idea and format of these 4 spaces and each one being dedicated to a Shadowsmith so they have distinct visual styles. I like how the map looks for the most part, but it at times really seems to lack color. Not always, but sometimes. I get it that we're basically in hell, but that doesn't mean we can't get some more color to pop around here instead of the predominant grays. The downside to whatever they were going for in the layout here is that there's seemingly a lot of dead and empty space. The connective tissue on the back end between all of the temples are areas that I basically do not use unless there is a TED task making me go back there. I am scarcely using them. When I do need them, it is nice, but it's not that often and it does feel a bit wasted or like maybe they could have done something a little different. I do like that each temple has access to most of the in-game progression features like armor, crafting tables, and the arsenal. It does help avoid needing to run all over this admittedly large map for things. And that's an odd thing because looking at the map, it doesn't seem that big. But man, it does take quite some time to leg it around the map, and you realize as you're running that this place is way larger than you gave it credit for originally. They almost provided a solution to this situation of running around a ton and feeling like it's taking forever with the addition of the grappling hook to this map. The grappling hook is something that exists in Black Ops 7 and it is being reused here. But once again, I get to say thank you for making it blend into this map. It feels like a zombie's item, and that makes it more fun to use. Generally, we don't have issues with things being reused in this way, so long as they're still unique and fun. We had the Kite and Kuwakajo, which is a remix of the wingsuit from the rest of Black Ops 7, but it was remade and formatted for zombies, and it works. It was also only in that map, which added flair to it. Ashes of the Damned has Tessie, and vehicles have been a part of COD since Warzone, and that's been going on for a while. But in Ashes of the Damned, you add things to the car throughout the match and you upgrade it. It transforms more and more into a distinctly zombies item and it becomes way more fun to engage with. Here again with the grappling hook, it is only in this map, it is reskinned, and it is fun. This tool allows you to get around the map faster for a limited time before it runs out and you have to grab it again. This is where the issue with this item lies and ties into the map as well as the egg. You are only allowed to grab the grappling hook 3 times per round. After that, you can't use it and you're back to full boots on the ground like the good old glory days, am I right? But no, it isn't great for this map, and I don't really see the point in limiting this either. You can't beat the map in 1 round just because you have the grappling hook. It doesn't make sense to me to limit it, so all told, I do like the grappling hook and it is fun to fly around with, but I don't get the implementation, especially when in the boss fight you can use it as much as you want. More on the boss later, but still it clearly could have been allowed, they just chose not to. You could have done something like, if you pick it up, then you just run back to an altar and you can put it down again and get your tactical back. Something like that, instead of just this timer that runs out and then you're kind of just screwed if you didn't get done with what you exactly wanted to do, or if you're just trying to explore and now you just got to run around or flip the round and now you have to deal with zombies again. It could have been a little better. Back to it though, the Pack-a-Punch needs to be acquired. Place the world seed in the center and 2 skulls from the warden will float away. They laugh at you. They're kind of funny to listen to. It is not super engaging to do this step multiple times. But anyway, chase them down and you will eventually be led to a cauldron and a Shadowsmith temple where you can take a fire back to the center and light a cauldron. Do that again to light the other fire and then crank it like it's arcane and bam! The map will transform and the center will sink down, forming stairwells that lead you down to the new Pack-a-Punch well. The design of this Pack-a-Punch is unique and really fun. I'm down with it. These steps also lead you down below to the core where Wonder Fizz will eventually spawn and mechanisms of this central part of the map exist, but we're not ready for that yet. Doing this to start up Pack-a-Punch also kicks on some rings that spin around above and below this area, and let me tell you, I fucking hate these. They look great, but they annoy the absolute piss out of me. Stop stunning me, leave me alone, I am just trying to move. If you want to do damage to me, fine, but stop leaving me in a daze constantly. It is so annoying to deal with so often throughout the match because you're constantly going back to the center to crank the wheel to light more fires and getting bitch slapped by these to do it. Sure, I could stick my finger in my ass and wait for them to be done wildly spinning, but I have crippling impatience and I don't want to wait. Just let me move. Not to mention as well, their hitbox seems insane and I feel like I get hit, especially in the lower part of the Nexus, when I think I am well outside their range. Is it the biggest deal? Absolutely not. Do I still find it to be annoying? Yes, now that we have Pack-a-Punch activated, it is time to start the egg. Or is it? I'm just messing with you. We can't do that yet because we have enemies to talk about and a new old new perk added to the mix. So for enemies, we start at the bottom with the Death Spinner, which is indeed a spider. These are visually much like the Zetsubo no Shima spiders. These little buggers won't block off paths like the ZNS spiders did, but they will spray you with white goo webs to slow you down and put you in danger of faster zombies. Admittedly, they don't feel totally fitting for the location, but I don't mind. I like them, I think they still work, and I enjoy their presence. Their freaky mother is in the map, and fittingly, the name is Web Mother. This is the new elite, which is the first elite since Oscar, and even he is a special case, which really means Zursa at launch was the last typical elite we were given. The Web Mother is noticeably less tanky than Zursa, but is threatening in more indirect ways. She, like her little ones, will shoot webs and slow you down, which is dangerous. Plus, she can spawn more Death Spinners to also slow you down. Putting these two new enemies together is a combination that, again, kind of feels out of place in this map for me, but I don't much mind. I think they're fun to engage with. As an elite enemy should, the Web Mother does force you to address their presence and be mindful of them, especially going past round 30 and up where her health really seems to pick up and she can't be removed quite as fast. That works really well. I tend to believe that Zursa is slightly too oppressive, but I don't have that feeling with the Web Mother. I really like the balance of this enemy and it just works. I am happy with it. It is also nice that she is weak to Lightmend, which is also the same thing that the Shadow Souls are weak to, which makes it easy to cover both of those and help yourself moment to moment, but then also during Easter egg steps later. I'll give it to him and I'm going to say, well done. It seems rather fitting then, with the enemies we have here, that Widow's Wine made its return after so many years out of the limelight. It comes back into play with a whole new perk format with both no perk limit, but also now augments. Slight change up is that this perk won't replace your lethal slot like it did in the past, which is absolutely necessary because there are many Easter egg steps that require a specific lethal, and if a free perk gave you Widows, it could absolutely stop a whole run in its tracks. Instead, now it will activate off of a cooldown when you're at low health, basically when you're at half health. Speaking specifically to the function of it, I actually like this more. I don't have to collect the spiders to get charges. I don't have to lose my lethals. It works in the background and I won't waste a charge on the odd hit here or there. It will activate and help me when I am low health and probably needing it. People have complained that it's a weak perk, and at the beginning I would agree. Before augments, it isn't crazy helpful. With the addition of more augments, I have come to think it is a great reintroduction. Widow's Wine is a fun perk, and I think they made useful, thoughtful, and effective changes to bring it back. Pair that with augments, and it's a thumbs up for me. Thanks for the perk back, Treyarch. I appreciate it. One question though, and this goes for anyone out there to answer if you might know why. Why is it that something like Widow's Wine was in the game files so far in advance of it coming out? Considering the enemies on this map, I have a hard time believing that they ever planned to drop this at any other time than now. So why is it in there so early? What benefit does that have? Aren't you just cluttering the game files with things that are literally not in use and ultimately spoiling stuff like this? It also leads to people getting frustrated because folks dig in and see it buried in the files, so they assume it's coming soon, but then it doesn't. Then another map goes by and still nothing. It's an odd thing I don't quite get. If I recall, this also happened in Cold War, where Double Tap was in the files for a long time, and then it never even came to the game at all. So does anyone know why this would be getting added to the public build so early? More just curious than anything, and I'm curious if anyone knows or has an answer. That out of the way, why don't we make the usual pit stop to applaud the music team? Yep, the music is a banger as per usual. I don't feel like it needs to be said, but also it definitely needs to be said because they deserve to be applauded for their hard work, especially with how consistent it is. Elena, thank you for taking us home. Same to Kevin Sherwood. I also really like the music that plays between cleansing your final temple and before you start the boss. So atmospheric. I like that one a lot. When all else fails in zombies, I know I can always rely on the music team to bring me joy. Fine. Now we can start the likely very long discussion of this Easter egg. First, we do need to get the Wonder Weapon, so let's start that off because once you have it, it opens up the rest of the egg. To acquire the Wonder Weapon, we must bust through the walls in Dravikar's temple to grab a crystal. Using this crystal, along with an astral flame and the grappling hook, we can complete the puzzle in Nyxara's temple. This is a fun light bouncing puzzle that results in a door being blasted open. Following that, you can chew down on fruit that for me is usually invisible, which is an amusing bug. But after eating that, you're sent to a dark forest. In here, you can find the 3 parts to the Wonder Weapon, and each one is next to a body, which leads to you hearing the warden talk about that person in their time of the American Civil War. These quotes are interesting and add to the backstory of where the warden originally came from, but at this point, we already had known that since Paradox Junction, so I would have liked some other quotes to expand more of the here and now that we are experiencing in this moment. Maybe a nitpick, but I don't know. I didn't think this was the best choice of quotes to put in here. Take your 3 parts and head to Dravikar's temple where you need to solve this riddle and open a secret chamber. I genuinely don't understand the logic of this puzzle, and I did try to figure it out, but eventually people just made cheat sheets of all the different combinations, and I just roll with that. This was a sign of things to come as the puzzles or challenges only get more bizarre and frankly bullshit stupid later into the egg. Anyway, hop up into this chamber and build your Wonder Weapon at the anvil. Here, we have the Warden's Blight. Originally starts as dual-wield single-shot crossbows that tracks if you're aiming relatively close to a target. This Wonder Weapon admittedly starts very underwhelming. Once it's Pack-a-Punch though, it gains a charge shot, which is a mini tornado, and this thing is actually rather effective at taking out zombies. The only real issue is that the tornado lasts for a very short amount of time and doesn't have a huge radius. You have to be very patient and group the zombies into a tight bundle. If you do that and you place a good shot, it can wipe a whole horde in one go, or at the very least, most of them. It also deals good damage later into the match and is probably, I would say definitely the strongest Wonder Weapon in Black Ops 7. Truthfully, that doesn't mean much, because for how absolutely sick the Wonder Weapon designs have been in this game, they've also had major damage fall-offs. This breaks that mold somewhat and is strong, but not ridiculously so. I wish it was stronger or more flashy about it. What I mean by that is that it doesn't feel that satisfying to use. It looks cool, but actually using it isn't that rewarding for me. It doesn't hit that mark in my head that makes me feel like, yeah, this thing's really cool. The Necromancer is fun because of its absurd design. The LGM is fun because of its unique style and use case. The Necrofluid Gauntlet is fun to use because of the way you are meant to use it, requiring more engagement, and it works in a way we aren't used to. Here with the Warden's Blight, I charge the shot, and it quietly eliminates zombies. I don't feel much when using it, honestly. I said before this map dropped that for me to be happy with the Wonder Weapon, it had to do at least one of 2 things. The first was that if they didn't go the Elemental Wonder Weapon route, I wanted whatever weapon they did make to be stupid powerful and off the wall. This weapon is strong, but not stupid powerful, and it certainly isn't off the wall. The second thing I wanted, which was really my highest priority, but I flipped it for the script to flow a little better here, is that I wanted elemental variants. We can see now that this did not happen, and it makes me quite sad. This is the first Treyarch Zombies game to not have at least one set of 4 elemental wonder weapons since it began in Black Ops 2 with Origins. That is an awesome streak for those, and it is wild to me that this is the game where it ended. This game that has been phenomenal and so much fun and seemed to have so much more care poured into it than in the recent years of Zombies, this is the game to not get an elemental set of wonder weapons. Crazy to me, and I think that it was a mistake that none of these were elemental. Best candidate would have probably been the Warden's Blight here, or just making a different weapon that upgrades based on the 4 different Shadowsmiths. It was all right in front of them, and they missed it. Regardless, the Warden's Blight is a strong wonder weapon. It is decently fun to use, and I overall like it, but I'm not overjoyed. It works. Back to the egg. What we need to do is cleanse each of the Shadowsmith's temples to free them. Okay, wait a second. Maybe I am an idiot, which I am, but hear me out. Didn't we already free them by defeating their boss forms? Isn't that kind of what they said to us? Like, hey, thanks for freeing me, bros. See ya. It feels so odd now that we didn't free them. Not really, because we hadn't yet done some of the most dumb, arbitrary things that apparently do free them. I'm getting ahead of myself now, though. First, we need each Shadowsmith's corrupted item. Call Theris is as easy as you just grapple hook in the purple orbs until you get lucky and eventually one drops it. It's easy, just takes a little time. Drafikar, you have to go into the secret chamber in his temple again and use Shatter Blast to knock a shield off the 4 corners of the room until you find the one with his hammer behind it. Not too bad. Here we go though, we're about to start having some issues. With Nixara, you need to travel back into that dark forest where you got the wonder weapon parts. In here, you have to use Shadow Rift to launch zombies. Eventually, one will drop her scroll. Problem. It takes a long time for one to drop a scroll, and you're on a timer in there. I have had times where I've needed to go to that damn forest 3 separate times, and you can't go back twice in 1 round, so I spent 3 rounds wasting my time trying to get this scroll to drop before it just did eventually. They should have either heavily accelerated the drop rate or allow you to choose how long to be in there and teleport out when you're ready. This part frustrates me, and I am always bracing for the long journey that I might have when I start looking for this part. Our final part is for Vaetherion, and now this part is very easy to get, but the issue is they clearly made this step dumb to make it incredibly difficult to find, likely for no other reason than to inflate the hunt, which is a theme with this egg. This part only spawns during a rain round for 1, and 2, it spawns in some of the dumbest locations. You have to intentionally throw yourself off the map in specific areas and spam interact on the way down to grab it. This item is small, it is hard to see, and I don't really know how they expected people to figure out that they needed to yeet themselves off the map, but only during rain rounds and right at these specific spots. This feels like a step built for the people who use that hacking tool that shows all interactable items. Great job giving them a distinct leg up in the hunt. After you have collected your 4 parts, you can work on the upgraded grappling hook, which is actually a fun step. Not sure how people figured out the first part of this, but you have to shoot a basketball in the house from down below in the main map. It is hard to see and doesn't throw any alarm bells for me when looking at the house, but turns out doing that will cause symbols to spawn in the house once per round until you have 4. After that, they did something that I think is genius. When you start the match, you leave the house by answering a phone. Now, after you shoot your 4 symbols, you have to answer a phone to get back up there. But where's the phone? Well, each map has had one in this entire game. In fact, they have multiple, but you'd never expect to use it for an Easter egg step. The exfil stations are phone booths, and if you do this step correctly, once you defeat the HVT from initiating the exfil, you can use the booth to be teleported back to the house. This is an A+ decision that I applaud Treyarch for. Take a thing we are used to and flip it on its head for an Easter egg step in a logical fashion. With the upgraded grappling hook available, we can now jump to firing up the Nexus fully and begin using it to cleanse Shadowsmiths. Use the hook and pop open all the panels to reveal the machine and break it free of its webs. Crank it and you will have an operational puzzle machine. Line up the 3 pillars facing a Shadowsmith and get to cleansing. This functions the same for each of them, so we're going to go through this one step at a time through each Shadowsmith and then go to the next step for each Shadowsmith instead of doing this completely 4 separate times. First, align the pillars, place their item, and light the cauldron with astral flames. This burns into a fragment which will then attach to a zombie. You need to then take that zombie to the matching Titan trap and get it to be killed by the correct hand on the correct Titan to break the shackle. Side note is that the Titans are a sick trap. My complaint is that you hear a quote from Dravikar saying how useful it will be to have them as our allies now that they're free, and then they do nothing, which is kind of funny to me, but not in a great way. Like, you free them, and I don't think I noticed them do anything to help you. They didn't show up in the boss fight. They didn't even help really bring you to the boss fight. That was the Shadowsmiths. But again, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. But yeah, I don't really know why Dravikar said how helpful it would be to have them as allies, because they don't do anything, I don't think. Anyway, that done, we now need to move the plate for each Shadowsmith And this is where we get really stupid. Where to start? How about Caltheris? Stand on the plate and ADS uninterrupted for 15 seconds or so? I'm sorry, what? Okay, maybe a goofy one, but the other three won't be as stupid, right? Dravacar, replate armor while on the plate. Okay, not bad, I guess, but spoiler, it is the best of them, and the other two are dumb like Caltheris. Nyxara, lay prone on the plate. Not sure of the exact solution, it's one of two things. Either just lay prone on the plate for an extended time, or through a round transition. Either one of those, not sure, again, exactly which one, I haven't fully tested it out yet, but yeah, just lay on the plate for a while. Why? And the last one is Vaetherion, again being the goofball, where you have to jump on the plate 30 times uninterrupted to open it. Actually, what are we doing? This is blatantly just random stuff for the sake of random stuff. Meant to slow down the hunt, all for nothing. What is the logic of jumping 30 fucking times on a plate to open it? That doesn't make sense. I don't even know how somebody thought to try that. These kinds of steps are not fun to do. Like, sure, there is worse out there, but this is nonsense and drags down the vibe of what we are doing in this map. Plus, some of these like Caltheris and Nyxara are really annoying to do solo due to the time that you are left vulnerable while trying to attempt what it's asking you to do. Either having a buddy is a major help, or you'll be ripping field upgrades and equipment to try to get it done and possibly using gums to do so as well. Not solo friendly steps are a no-no for me. I don't like that. So whatever, you get through those and it gets better, right? Right? No. You have to elevate each mirror and align them to the exact specific, and I mean very specific spot on a random wall in each Shadowsmith temple. These have a very small success window and are so tedious to get into place as you're shooting the disc to do it. Accidentally hit it a little too close to the edge, it's going to fly way past the target and you'll have to slowly inch it back the other way. Think you have it lined up? Well, maybe, but also good chance it's off by a centimeter and the souls you add do nothing, so you have to shift it a little and try again until you hit the correct spot and can actually proceed. All four of the mirrors kind of suck, but I really don't like Dravacar's, and I actually hate Nyxara's. Hers is so annoying to line up, way too finicky. So that done, you now have to break the exposed skull, which requires you to deal with a mixture of zombies, an abomination, a web mother, or roughly 6,000 hellhounds depending on which temple you're doing. All of this while having to destroy shadow souls to break the immunity on the statue's head. In concept, it is a straightforward step for the most part, and spots like Dravacar and Caltheris aren't too bad. The Wonder Weapon can also help here as it tracks, so if you aim close to the shadow souls, it can track and you can focus more on living than pinpoint accuracy. The other two temples, they're not as nice. Vaetherion is a rather small zone, and in there is an abomination. It truly isn't the worst, but it's already small enough. I think the abomination was unnecessary. Nyxara, though, I don't like for this step at all. There are so many fucking hellhounds that I can't take half a second to deal with the shadow souls or the skull. If I eliminate some dogs, they immediately respawn and we're right back at it. Whoever chose to have this many dogs is an absolute asshole that likes to see people suffer. It is obnoxious. Holy crap, after all of that, we must be done now with these temples, right? No, of course not. Drag a purple orb to the Shadowsmith head at the temple entrance and use the Wonder Weapon to lift it on top of their head. Now, on a raining round, and only a raining round for some reason, you can throw an astral flame at it, and if you hit that orb, you finish the cleansing. Good grief, that was a lot. Thankfully, I have learned an optimization to this step, which takes some of my anger away towards it. Like I said, it can only be done on a rain round. You can trigger a rain round by doing the lengthy Vaetherion puzzle to gain access to that well. Interacting with the well will make the following round be a rain round. Spider rounds are also natural rain rounds, so you can skip that entire puzzle and rely on spider rounds to finish the cleansing and also find the Vaetherion part earlier in the egg. You also don't need the beam from the center to be on the Shadowsmith that you're throwing the astral flame onto the orb for. So you can do all of the steps leading up to that final orb destruction for each Shadowsmith, and then just wait for a natural rain round, and then do all four within one round. This helps a ton because I was getting frustrated with the forced round progression of only doing one per round, but there is a feasible and rather simple way around it, so that does help. Another great touch is that when a temple is finished, it changes the look of it. They actually become brighter, and the architecture becomes cleaner and easier to see. It actually transforms them and makes it feel like you're accomplishing something, which I appreciate. The egg for this map is a complete mixed bag. It is rather long and not in the best way per se. It also has plenty of absolute nonsense steps. Throw in some baffling choices along the way and you may think I hate this egg, but I don't? Like I said, this map is all over the place at times, and that's true even in this egg where I have a lot of negatives, but there's also some positives that we covered. Overall, I like the egg, but it definitely could have been better and is far from my favorite within Black Ops 7 because of it. That, though, is the egg complete. And now with the Shadowsmiths cleansed and freed for the second time, I guess, we can take on the Warden on his turf in an epic showdown to end this story. Down into the depths we ride as the Shadowsmiths guide us to the final battle. A grim arena appears and it's oddly flat and open. This should be easy to keep the boss so— oh my god! So, the Warden is transformed into essentially a centaur, but as a scorpion, not a horse. He has his floating skulls, and breaking those will cause him to stop and enter a small but important damage window. Outside of that, he is a straight damn menace, especially when playing solo. He is on your ass, riding you like the cowboy he is. Pause. This is a fight that will push you to your limit, honestly. It has me so on edge and locked in the whole time. A moment of not paying attention can be your doom. They provide 2 stations to grab the grappling hook from in this fight, and at first I was a little let down as it's the base version, and having that smaller use window really made the fight even harder to manage. Turns out though, you can get the upgraded grappling hook in the boss fight, and that is a game changer. Basically, this fight boils down like this for me. Run laps around the Warden, grappling as much as you can. Sneak in shots with the Wonder Weapon in the general direction of the skulls when you can see them, and let the tracking do the work. Once he is able to be damaged, grapple from the zombies and unload for a few seconds before going again. I also use the grappling hook to bounce around between the debris in the sky, which can help keep you off the ground in order to heal, or just to have a second to think. It's a very helpful trick. Along the way, he will begin to add aerial attacks with bomb clouds, basically. He also has a wipe mechanic, and if you are familiar with me, you know I love wipe mechanics, especially when it has some clear counters. Here you can destroy the stingers to stop the wipe. You can also try to time it so you fall below the map at the time it explodes and you can avoid the damage. Or you can do another one-time thing that I did, which was use a disciple injection or some other immunity giving streak like an Arc CXD to eat the damage, and that way, if you can't avoid it, you just prevent it. I love me a fair and fun wipe mechanic. Finishing 2 phases will land you in a small prison for 30 seconds. I just chuck 2 Casimirs and I'm good to go. This is a negligible step, but I actually like it because of that. This fight is so intense because of how fast it is that it's nice to get a short breather before heading back to finish it. Final phase. Lock in and take this monster out back like Old Yeller. You get him into the last bit of his health. The bar empties and he collapses as your HUD goes away in anticipation for the final cutscene. It lingers. A little too long, and then your fears strike true. He roars back to life with a secret 4th phase. He is back to almost half health, and there are no more breaks. You have to get this last chunk of health without any pauses between phases. The intensity just keeps going in this fight, and damn it, it is fun. Break the Shadow Souls protecting the Warden, and bring him down once and for all. The Shadowsmiths unite forces and finish the job after you do all the work for those lazy bums. Seriously, I love this boss fight. My issue right now with it is more bug related, so I won't linger on it too long and just hope that they fix it because this fight is amazing. This is probably my favorite modern zombies boss fight because it really is riding the line between difficulty and rewarding really well. It is a hard fight and you're likely to go down or fail your first run, maybe more. But with practice and focus, you can beat him. There is a clear path for the most part to success, so long as you work at it and learn how he works. Absolute great way to end the gameplay side of Black Ops 7 Zombies. This does leave us at the stage where we see the final cutscene though, and that has been rather divisive. I am not a lore expert for modern zombies. I know general ideas and some specific parts, but in general, I don't know every detail. I am generally much more well versed in the older story and I got way more invested. The reason I don't care as much about this story is because it struggled to grab my attention. Starting with Cold War, we were just a strike team, we didn't play as a character in the story, it felt disconnected, I felt disconnected, so I didn't really get invested. Vanguard was much the same. Modern Warfare Zombies was simply a game I didn't spend much time on. From what I have studied, it seemed to be a moderately interesting story, but yet again, not through us as players. That led to Black Ops 6, where they kick off with us playing as characters in the story and bringing back the Sentinel artifact, which meant Chaos could be involved again. This led to what I felt were a bunch of disconnected moments though, as the writers seemingly pulled at random from Chaos and eventually Vanguard for these WoW moments that led to nothing at all. I started Black Ops 6 very interested, and by the end, I was totally checked out and barely woke up for welcome to the party. Suffice to say, I wasn't super into it leading into Black Ops 7. I was getting more interested as the characters were more engaging thanks to Tempest, but even then the story didn't go very deep, and when it had big moments, they were once again often left unanswered. That all built up to this last map and last cutscene where I assumed we would get answers that weren't satisfying or just none at all. It was a mix of both. They simply left too much on the table for it to be a satisfying end. I don't hate this cutscene, but I didn't feel much when watching it. Ava is free, and while we've basically known it for a while, it is now confirmed that she is the entity. She sends Maya to be with her family as she isn't directly tied to the rest of Requiem's fate, where they are sent to die, which closes their arc that we've been waiting on since Modern Warfare Zombies concluded. They of course showed Ava being born first and set up how it's kind of a cycle, but not really. Tempest was sent off by Ava into their future. Their threads are still bound or something, and they have to venture on in their journeys. Likely this means they will be a part of whatever story comes next. Ava and the twins remain behind in the dark ether and leave us with the end for now. Again, I don't hate it, but it's not satisfying, at least for me. I thought this would be a really good time to end it and close this story fully. Start the next game in a brand new universe and truly start new like Chaos had tried to previously. All signs point to that not being the case. If they can find something interesting within this universe to talk about, I don't mind it, but it's tiring to go through the events of these games and feel nothing. Then you see a random reference to older games and it piques your interest, all for it to be forgotten literally moments later and never mentioned again. Like, what was the point of bringing Chaos in any fashion? Obviously the Sentinel artifact, but that was the only thing of note to come from the combination of stories and universes. If you wanted a MacGuffin to get Requiem into the Dark Ether, you could have made up literally any device to do that. It didn't need to be the Sentinel artifact. All this led to was countless questions about Chaos and how it could tie in and what this could mean, and ultimately it meant nothing. This also happened with parts of Vanguard Zombies. It doesn't all need to be connected. There gets to be a point that there is literally no way to make all of this work together in any sensible or satisfying way. That is where we seem to get to, and that's why I wanted a fresh universe for the next game where they could reset and structure the world how they want to tell an effective story within the bounds of Zombies, which has storytelling limits. Regardless, we made it to the end of the story, and yet another final map that has a whack story, but many elements of great gameplay, leaving us scratching our heads about the future. That is where we are now. Another disappointing thing about this map that I've already talked about in a different video, so I won't dive in deep here, is the lack of cursed content. No new relics, no new camos. At this point, the odds of them coming later are next to zero. There is a calling card for getting all 30 relics, which is the amount in the game now. Adding more makes that calling card not make sense. We get our reward for getting all of the Pack-a-Punch camos, which means adding more later wouldn't make sense. It seems we simply aren't getting that content, which is disappointing. I want to make a comparison to where I was at about a year ago for Reckoning. I was kind of checked out of Zombies and struggling to stay invested. I hopped into Reckoning, as is my obligation and duty as a Zombies fan, and story aside, I was blown away and totally re-locked in on Zombies, which had fueled me through the gap between games and through Black Ops 7 until here. I had the opposite experience with Rex Infernus. I was locked in and ready to see the conclusion, and then beating the map and seeing these Easter egg steps just had me scratching my head. Then knowing the story was done, and not only was it the end of this game, but it was the end of the story we had been seeing for years, that's different from Reckoning, where yes, it was bad, but there was a slight glimmer of hope because they still had time to fix the story. They just ultimately didn't do that, as we see now. Tack on the lack of cursed content, which has been a major part of my love for Black Ops 7, and you have a map that leaves me demotivated about Zombies, and that's not a great feeling going into a year or more break from new Zombies content. Rex Infernus is not a bad map, but it is a bad finale, and that is why I called it the best terrible finale in Zombies. It is a fun map with a cool location and set piece. For the most part, the egg is pretty fun, if not a little long, but definitely has some issues. And then the boss fight is superb. This map is just drowning in what feels like an almost undeniable feeling that the budget was slashed. They built the map, got it done, and were told not to make further content for this map. It steals the life from this map when it is the big finale of this game, and yet it manages to have the least content out of any map in this game. I like Rex Infernus, but I don't love it and I wish I did. Perhaps in time, as the sting of how this launch went goes away, I may come to love it, but only time will tell. Currently, I'd probably call this map a 7 out of 10. One worry for my future impression of the map is that doing the egg more and more might be more annoying and lower my view. However, it really seems like this egg is able to be optimized and it gets a little better each time a new one is implemented, so hopefully that trend keeps up. For now, we are closing the book on Black Ops 7 and patiently waiting to see if there is any more content like a super Easter egg in the future. I sure hope so, but even if there isn't, there is no denying that Black Ops 7 has been one hell of a zombies game. I have had a blast this year, and I hope the next time we see zombies can match this or improve, because that would be a truly impeccable year if it happens. This is not the end of my zombies content, nor the end of my Black Ops 7 zombies content. What I make next for videos will depend on if or what content is added to this game. I appreciate any of you who have watched this to the end, any who have seen my other videos, or who have stuck with me through the year. I want to hear your thoughts on Rex Infernus in the comments below, so sound off. I will be making my large retrospective, but it will be waiting until we see if there's a super Easter egg or not, so in the meantime, I'll be working on that in the background as much as I can. Thank you all for watching. Until next time.